Breaking tonight, explosive new video coming to light from one of the architects of Obamacare, suggesting that the Obama administration intentionally misled the public because, according to this top White House advisor, if the American public really knew what this law did, they never would have supported it. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. MIT health economist Jonathan Gruber was critical to Obamacare's passage into law. He helped design it, write it, and ultimately sell it. And just today, new video came to light featuring Mr. Gruber about a year ago in a moment of brutal honesty, describing an intentional effort to hide the true nature of the Obamacare law because he believed Americans were too stupid to accept it any other way. Listen.
This bill was written in a tortured way to make sure CBO did not score the mandate as taxes. If CBO scored the mandate as taxes, the bill dies. Okay, so it's written to do that. In terms of risk-rated subsidies, if you had a law which said healthy people are going to pay in, it made explicit that healthy people pay in and sick people get money, it would not have passed. Okay, just like the lack of transparency is a huge political advantage, and basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever. But basically, that was really, really critical to getting the thing to pass. And, it's the second best argument. Look, I wish Mark was right. We can make it all transparent. But I'd rather have this law than not. So it's kind of like his reporter story. Yeah, there's things I wish I could change, but I'd rather have this law than not.
Mark Thiessen is a former chief speechwriter to President George W. Bush and a fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. And there you have it. You and I have been talking about this law for over a year. And piece by piece, deceptions have been revealed, misstatements to be charitable, like, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. And now you have one of the critical architects of the entire law, a top advisor to the White House, saying it outright on camera that they had to deceive people because they were too stupid to like what Mr. Gruber thinks they should have liked.
They lied to us for our own good, Megyn. They always lie to us for our own good because we're too stupid to understand. I mean, look, Barack Obama went out in 2009 and insisted the individual mandate is absolutely not a tax increase. There was one point where he did an interview with George Stephanopoulos, and Stephanopoulos read him the Webster's Dictionary definition of a tax, and he rejected it. He said, it's absolutely not. My critics say everything's a tax. It's not a tax. We now know from Jonathan Gruber that they knew from the very beginning that it was a tax. I mean, think about what he said. He said, we knew it was a tax. We knew that if the American people knew it was a tax, the bill would die. So we took advantage of the stupidity of the American people and crafted a bill with tortured language to lie not only to the American people, but to lie to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office to get them to score it as not being a tax. And he's proud of it. He thinks this is something, look at the self-satisfied look on his face. He thinks he's a genius.
He doesn't care that anybody dislikes the law. All that matters to Mr. Gruber is that he likes the law, and he was going to cram it down the throats of the American people, whether they liked it or not, even if it required dishonesty. And I want to tell the audience, Mr. Gruber's been on this program before. We invited him to come back on tonight to defend himself. You want to say that at your MIT forum? Great. Go for it. Come and say that here on the Kelly File, where you will be treated fairly, but you will be challenged on that assertion. And what he said to us tonight was, I'm not interested.
I'm not surprised. I mean, look, if you want to know how condescending this guy is, he actually wrote a comic book to explain Obamacare because, of course, we're not smart enough to read chapter books, so he has to give us a comic book. And in that comic book, he said, and this is a quote, the mandate, the individual mandate, is the spinach we have to eat in order to get the dessert that is fairly priced health insurance. So this is the liberal view of America, that we are all too stupid to know what's good for us, that we need experts like Jonathan Gruber to feed us our spinach, and if they have to hide the spinach from us, if they have to lie to us about it, if they hide it in our food, that's okay as long as they get the outcome they want.
That's clear when you listen to what he said, when he talks about how if you had a law which said that healthy people are going to pay in, and you made explicit, do we have it? We have that. Let's listen.
The bill was written in a tortured way to make sure CBO did not score the mandate as taxes. If CBO scored the mandate as taxes, the bill dies. Okay, so it's written to do that. In terms of risk-rated subsidies, if you had a law which said healthy people are going to pay in, it made explicit that healthy people pay in and sick people get money, it would not have passed. Okay, just like lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. and basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever. But basically, that was really, really critical to getting the thing to pass. And, it's the second best argument. Look, I wish Mark was right. We can make it all transparent, but I'd rather have this law than not. So it's kind of like his reporter story. Yeah, there's things I wish I could change, but I'd rather have this law than not.
All right, so that was the whole bite again. But what I was trying to focus us on was the piece where he talked about how if you had a law which said healthy people are going to pay in, and you made explicit that healthy people would pay in and sick people would get the money, it would not have passed. Why not just be honest? Tell the American people that's what we're doing. Let them decide. You know what they said? It's not the case. And a case went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court where Michael Carvin of Jones Day, a firm I used to work for, made the argument to the justices that this was a fraud, that a fraud was being committed because, especially on young people who are going to be forced to pay in for health care they would never need or use to pay for the sick. And the government said, not true. And now Mr. Gruber comes out on camera and says, it's true, and we just couldn't tell you.
What he's basically saying is that it is okay and it is ethical to lie, deceive the American people into supporting something that they would otherwise oppose, and that they are if they are too stupid to either to support what we know is best for them, or B, to figure out the deception, then too bad for them. That's the attitude that this administration brings to public policy. And look, Megyn, it's not just Obamacare. I mean, this is the attitude that gave us you can keep your plan. This is the attitude that gave us we didn't touch the Benghazi talking points. This is the attitude that gave us not a smidgen of corruption at the IRS. This is the attitude that gave us nobody at the White House was involved in what happened in Cartagena. I mean, they just lie and lie and lie. And the polls show that the American people recognize this. A Fox News poll a few months ago, 81% of Americans say that Barack Obama lies at least from time to time on important matters. I mean, think about what that says, that 81% of the American people think the president lies to them about important matters. Mm-hmm. And here we have just one more piece of evidence showing that that is true, and they're proud of it.
But this is in a courtroom. This is the kind of evidence you refer to as a smoking gun. I mean, this is one of the chief architects on camera admitting that they lied. You never get that. What you get is things like, oh, we changed the talking points, but we only changed the one word from consulate to diplomatic facility. You get hedging. You get qualifications. You don't get on cam, we did it because you're too stupid to know what's good for you. And then, of course, the night he gets invited on the very program, he said some of those things to defend the earlier misrepresentations, to defend them. I'm not interested. You know what? We're no longer interested in you, Mr. Gruber. And 28 Democrats who voted for that health care law just got fired by the American people because eventually they realized they had been lied to after the U.S. Supreme Court said, you know what? We're on to you. It is a tax. They didn't care because it wound up being a legal victory on the merits. But one by one, the misrepresentations have come out and the American people have had their say. Mark, I'll give you the last word.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, look, it's one thing for us to point it out on television. It's one thing for the Washington Post fact checker to say that Obama committed the lie of the year. It's entirely another thing for the architect of the individual mandate, the man who convinced Barack Obama to support the individual mandate, to admit that they lied, that they think the American people are stupid, and that they know what's best for us. And if it takes lying to us to get what they want done, they're willing to do it. That's the biggest indictment, self-indictment that this administration has ever had.
Wow. Great to see you, Mark.
Thanks, Megyn.
We're taking your thoughts on it. Go to facebook.com/The Kelly File and let us know what you think. Well, just days after the Democrats were handed a devastating defeat in the U.S. Senate, you won't believe this. President Obama has an explanation for what went so wrong. And you know what he thinks? He needed to sell it better to the American people. He needed to explain better to you why you should love his policies. Sound familiar? Governor Huckabee is here to deconstruct that next. Plus, President Obama's new nominee for Attorney General finds herself at the center of the first big political fight since the midterms. Judge Napolitano has some interesting ideas on why. And the Democrats went after Rush Limbaugh in the run-up to the midterms, and now Mr. Limbaugh is firing back. Just ahead.